Good morning, friends, Romans, and countrymen. Who said that, by the way? I can't remember. Anyway, it's great to be with everybody, and thank you. Boy, we're getting some questions in advance. Thank you for camping out for our live stream. Really appreciate that. As always, this is going to be a short one today, and it's just me, folks. Adam is, I think he's at Busch Gardens with his family. So there you go. But I've got a few things to talk to you about, and I think you'll enjoy them. And I've got to teach a class at 11:30 Eastern. So we have a whopping 29 minutes. You know, nobody ever accused me of being short-winded, right? So, but today I will be. I will not be with you very long today, but I want to say, if I don't say so myself, now we're pat on the back. Okay, pat on the back. I've got a great podcast for you today. I already recorded it, and the Creating Wealth show today is a good one that you must hear. So be sure to check out the Creating Wealth podcast today. It'll probably release this afternoon at about 5 o'clock Eastern, somewhere around there. And do not miss today's episode. Well, don't miss any of the episodes, but don't miss today either. All right, so let me share my screen with you and dive into a few of these things that you need to know about. You need to know about these things today. So we are live, and it is the 21st. Let me see. I'll get to some of these questions in a moment here, folks. Okay, let's dive into this. If you have any questions, comments, need assistance, please reach out to us through jasonhartman.com or 1-800-HARTMAN, and we are happy to help you. So the government could never be accused of being very smart, could they? Remember when the Democrat trolls were trolling George Bush a long time ago, and the saying they came up with is, "It's the economy, stupid." Well, I created a new one. It's supply, stupid. It's all about supply. So, you know, you've heard about these programs that the Biden administration is coming out with, or, you know, proposing. And one of them was that $15,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit. Absolutely the worst idea ever. Kind of as bad as the failed Cash for Clunkers program. So that was a terrible idea. Absolutely terrible idea. But now the Biden administration even wants to make it better. I mean, worse. Definitely worse. Definitely worse. So what do they want to do? Well, they want to give people more money. They want to give them down payment assistance. And they want to not only give up to $25,000 in first-time homebuyer down payment assistance. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, well, Jason, you're so mean. We first-time buyers need some help. No, you don't. This is the kind of help you don't need. This is going to backfire, and I'll tell you how. Just wait for a moment. Wait for it. It's coming, okay? This is a terrible plan. And look at this. Another $5,000 will be offered to those who are socially challenged because, you know, some people are just lame and they need the government to help them more. What an insult. I mean, that is such an insult. If I was one of these socially challenged groups, and hey, look, you can tell because you're watching me and listening to me that I am definitely socially challenged, right? There you go. So they'll get even $5,000 more because, gosh, you know, they couldn't possibly take care of themselves. No, definitely not. Here's why this idea sucks. And, you know, this article, it's like someone saw me on television 3 weeks ago when I was talking about this, and then they did an article about it because it's exactly what I said. I talked about pouring gasoline on the fire, making the problem worse. The government is so stupid. I can't even believe the absolute lack of understanding of the most basic law of economics. What is the most basic law of economics? You know what it is. It's supply and demand. Supply and demand is the most fundamental law of economics. The dog is looking at me here like I'm screaming. Housekeeper is upstairs, so she's not looking at me weird. But the dog is kind of wondering, what is he yelling about? Hey, I'm yelling about economics, supply and demand. Okay, anyway. So the government, so stupidly, these idiots are focusing on the demand side of the equation when we don't have a demand problem. Duh. Housing inventory is the lowest it's been since I was 20 years old. Okay? And that was like 170 years ago. All right? It's just absolutely stupid that they're trying to create more demand in a supply constrained market. What should they be doing? You're asking me, Jason, what should they do? Okay, fine. Here's what they should do. And it shouldn't take someone as smart as yours truly to say this, because it should be so obvious. It's so obvious. They should simply focus on creating more supply. Duh. Okay. I think we need some applause. Yep. Focus on creating more supply. How do they do that? Well, instead of giving incentives to first-time home buyers and thereby simply increasing the prices of the houses in the marketplace that they want to buy, which is exactly what will happen. You give a $15,000 tax credit, guess what will happen? The marketplace will adjust, all the sellers, boom, they will simply raise their prices by $15,000 or more, because this tends to create a mania, these things, right? And it causes prices to go up even more than what the stupid government is offering as an incentive. How about 25,000? And then 30,000 for those socially challenged people like myself. Okay? They'll just raise the price $25,000, $30,000 or more. What they need to do is give credits to real estate developers and encourage them to build more houses. We need more supply. The supply is short. You don't focus on making more demand when there's more demand than you can possibly fulfill. You create more supply. Duh! Really? I can't believe I need to even say this. It's so obvious. I mean, don't these people in government that make our policies, that, work in the White House, that have advanced college degrees, don't they know the most basic rule of economics, supply and demand? These people are freaking stupid. They're so dumb. I can't even believe it. It's shocking. Okay. Well, let's take my blood pressure. I do have a blood pressure monitor. I should keep it here. My blood pressure is actually quite low, so I don't need to do that. Yeah, what you need to do is you need to create more supply, obviously. So how about this? How about loosening building restrictions a little bit so builders could come in and satisfy the demand and create more supply so people could buy houses? How about ending environmental racism? Remember on my podcast, maybe you don't because you weren't listening, but you should have heard it. I interviewed the brilliant Thomas Sowell years ago, okay? Thomas Sowell, he's retired now. The guy's like 90 years old. The man is absolutely brilliant. He's written a zillion books. Thomas Sowell, brilliant man. I interviewed him many years ago on my podcast. And on that interview, I coined the phrase environmental racism. And what is this? When I lived in Orange County, California, when I lived in Newport Coast, actually, I remember all of the people who owned homes there passing out flyers and rallying people and running political movements to try and enforce and make sure that we had dedicated open space forever, right? Dedicated open space. They wanted to save Crystal Cove, right? And they wanted to keep Crystal Cove out of the hands of the evil developers. Why? Well, I say they were practicing what I call environmental racism. Boy, here's the oldest riddle about that, right? What do you call an environmental, or wait, how does it go? I almost got it backwards. I'm too excited here. Jason, calm down. Let's do it. Let's do a yoga like an Om. Om. Okay, there. We got a little yoga in here, right? Little bit of meditation. That's like the sound that created the universe or something. I never quite understood that, but I've done a lot of yoga in my life. Need to go do some more because getting a little out of shape. This pandemic has not been good for the body. Not good. Gotta work out a little more. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, environmentalists. So what do you call a real estate developer? What do you call a real estate developer? Someone who wants to build a house at the beach or in the woods. What do you call an environmentalist? Someone who already owns a house at the beach or in the woods. See, they're such hypocrites. Once they've got theirs, they want to keep everybody else out. And that's environmental racism right there. It sums it up, right? It's just the absolute stupidity of this thing. If they really cared about equality and access and equal opportunity, they would let people build more houses so more people could afford to live in these places, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so anyway, that's the stupid government. Let's move on. Do not give a tax credit to first-time home buyers. You're just going to make the prices of the houses they want to buy go up. Don't do it. Give a credit or some incentive. Make building restrictions easier. Stop making so many rules about all these things they have to do to build a house. Let them build some more basic houses. People need housing. There is a massive shortage of housing. All right. Let's move on because I'm just too upset about that. Okay. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, I'm not reading exactly, says economic reopening could cause inflation to pick up temporarily. Remember the great saying from the late, great Milton Friedman, brilliant economist. If you have not read Milton Friedman, you must read Milton Friedman. Look, he didn't get everything right, but he got most everything right. I interviewed his son on the Creating Wealth podcast, and I also interviewed his grandson on the Creating Wealth podcast, who, by the way, is one of my Facebook friends and might be watching this right now. If you are, leave a comment, Patrick. You know who you are, okay? Anyway, so, Milton Friedman had this great quote. He said, "Nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program." Boy, that quote is so true. And it's been true for so many decades. Nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program. You can never trust the government to ever roll anything back. Every politician, when they run for office, they always talk about all the new things they want to do, how they want to fix everything, right? No politician, almost never, talks about the laws they want to repeal, the regulations they want to get rid of. Now, Trump, to his credit, okay, I know, here comes the hate. Here comes the Trump derangement syndrome, people. Come on, put it in the comments. Oh my God, you're such a moron. Trump is such a jerk. Blah, blah, blah. Oh God, it's like, people, let's be rational here, okay? Look, you may hate Trump, but to his credit, he did repeal a lot of regulations. And when you repeal regulations, you grease the skids for entrepreneurs to solve problems. When you make more regulations, you simply inhibit them from solving problems. Look, I'm not saying these people are being altruistic. I'm just saying they want to make money. They're greedy. They're greedy as hell. Good for them. Greed is good, like the Wall Street movie said, right? Not completely, but mostly it's good. And they want to solve problems. They want to make money. And if they can't, if all these regulations get in the way, they can't solve the problems. So loosen the regulations, let them jump in and solve some problems. Powell is lying again. This is not going to be a temporary inflation. It's going to be a permanent inflation. There are so many signs of inflation all around us now. I had lunch on Sunday with brunch actually, with Jeff Snyder, with Alhambra, and George Gammon. And Jeff probably has the most sound argument for a deflation of anyone I've heard. And I don't fully understand it yet. I think I'm going to invite him on the podcast to talk about it. But we had a really interesting discussion at Sunday brunch, Jeff and George and I. But I don't know. I'm still in the inflation camp. We'll see what happens. As I've expressed it before so many times over the years, we have this war. Okay, this war of two opposing sides. On one side, look at it like a boxing match, right? And by the way, I'm not in favor of boxing. I think it's barbaric, but whatever. In this corner over here, we have bad fiscal and monetary policy. And in this corner over here, we have technology, innovation, and progress, right? And the question is, who will win the boxing match, right? Who will win the boxing match? Will it be bad fiscal and monetary policy, which is inflationary, or will it be technology, which is deflationary? We do not know who will win. It remains to be seen. But so far, bad fiscal and monetary policy is winning, and we, the people, are losing because of it, unless we are following my plan to align our interest with the two most powerful forces the world has ever known, governments and central banks, and take advantage of my trademark technique, inflation-induced debt destruction. Okay? Inflation-induced debt destruction. Learn more about that on the Creating Wealth podcast, on the YouTube channel. You really just need to get your head around that. Follow my advice there, and you will win this game, because there is financial repression going on all around us. Okay, so deficits to drop and then spike, right? And this just is talking about, this article talking about how, essentially overall, the government is in massive debt. It's a massive problem. I don't have time to go into this and read it to you in detail, but it's on the screen. If you look back at the live stream, do the replay, you can pause the screen and just read it. Okay. But what I do want to show you is this chart, because this is interesting. This shows the amount of federal debt held by the public. Okay. Now this is interesting, right? So here we've got the pandemic of 2020. And then we've got the projections for the future of this federal debt. And the largest public works project of all time ever was this one. It was World War II, right? Hopefully you see my mouse moving there. It was World War II. And that time we saw the debt just absolutely skyrocket. But guess what? we had a way to come out of it then. That isn't the same case today. And debt, generally speaking, means inflation, inflationary pressure at the very least. And that's why I think the future looks pretty inflationary. There are arguments against it, but not many. Most people are now in the inflation camp, even if they weren't a few years ago. Most economists are in the inflation camp. There are a few voices, and by the way, I think Jeff Snyder is probably one of the most rational for a deflation argument, and I'll invite him on the show so you can hear more from him directly about it. Okay, I want to talk to you about the world's biggest problem. It's not debt. It's not deficits. It's not government stupidity. Well, this is part of government stupidity. It is this. Here is a GIF of a book burning party. This should be the thing that worries all of us the most. It is this kind of control by the thought police of what we can read, what we can see online. And we don't even know how bad this problem is because we don't know what we don't know. You know what I always say on the podcast? You can't hear the dogs that don't bark. You can't hear the dogs that don't bark. And what are these dogs not barking? How do we know what we don't see? What never shows up in our news feed? What never shows up in our search results? We don't know what we don't see. And we don't know what books we never see. The disgusting company Amazon, right? There's an article about Amazon, right? They are quietly banning books containing undefined hate speech. They don't define what that means. See, if this were a government or a judicial process, they would have to define things, right? Remember the famous quote from the Supreme Court justice in, I don't know, I want to say the 50s, maybe the 60s. He said, and I don't remember which Supreme Court justice it was either, but when this whole battle was coming about the issue of pornography, right, and indecency, and there were lots of laws against it, and the First Amendment prevailed in this stuff, and I'm not saying it's for better or for worse. It just is the way it is. But the problem is, if some are complaining that, well, we've got too much smut in the world, right? Okay, fine. That, anybody could think that, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with them. But the problem is, we don't know what would have happened if the free speech argument went the other way back when this was a big deal in the 50s and 60s. See the movie, I think it's called, it was a good movie, by the way. I think it's called The People versus Larry Flint. Really good movie. I didn't think it would be good, but it was really quite good. And I don't know, I enjoy courtroom drama. I enjoy legal issues. I love the legal system. I think it's really the backbone of civilization. Without laws, we have no civilization. We really don't. Okay. The problem is, right now, we've got this case where this situation where all these private companies don't have to follow the law because they can say that their environment is, it's up to them what they want to do in their environment, right? And that makes sense when there's a whole host of private companies competing in a marketplace. But the problem is these companies have become so large that they are essentially monopolies. Okay, maybe they're not. They're duopolies, but they're coordinating with each other. There's no question that Jack over at that tweet company coordinates with Mark over at this book company, right? Who coordinates with Jeff over at this other book company, right? I'm not saying the names exactly because, of course, the algorithms will pick me up and censor me. But this is the biggest problem of our time, folks. It is super scary. And this narrative applies to all sorts of issues, including economics issues. I have a huge crush on Audrey Hepburn. The late Audrey Hepburn. And, the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's is like a classic, great movie. Well, guess what? It's been censored. Okay. It's been remade. You've got to now have all sorts of cancel culture here in these old movies, right? So look at what this says. They're taking part in discussions before the films offering historical and cultural context, as well as warnings on possibly upsetting scenes. Other reframed movies coming this month include Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Gunga Din, The Jazz Singer, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Psycho, and My Fair Lady. So there are people in the future who will never get to see the original versions of these movies. Welcome to the Communist Party of China. Here we go. I posted this a long time ago, and the famous line, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. And I said, what if Paul Revere was deplatformed by the candle maker for promoting violence against the British? Just think about that. That could have happened. It would certainly happen today. It would certainly happen today. All right. I got a couple minutes here. Let me get to some of your questions. I'm going to skip past this. I wanted to talk to you about packaged commodities. We'll get to that next time. But go to pandemicinvesting.com if you want a free copy of our mini book on how to invest during these crazy times. And of course, jasonhartman.com. In the United States, you can call us at 1-800-HARTMAN. Let me get to a couple of questions and comments here real quick, and I'll wrap it up. Sorry, I've got to go more quickly today. Okay, Chicken Charlie, I love these handles. They're hilarious. Chicken Charlie says, what do you think of alternative real estate investments such as Realty Mogul, Fundrise, etc.? I think they're terrible. Don't do it. This violates commandment number 3, thou shalt maintain control. Okay, you want to be a direct investor. Look, if you want to do that stuff, you're going to leave yourself susceptible to 3 major potential problems. Number 1, you might be investing with a crook. Number 2, you might be investing with an idiot. Remember, someone else is in control of the deal. Number 3, assuming they're honest and competent, and you've passed those first 2 hurdles, they take a huge management fee off the top for managing the deal, and you get the leftovers. Okay, these promoters get giant fees for managing the deal. So, look, it's great if you are the promoter, right? If you're doing it, but it's not so great if you're the investor. So I say be a direct investor and maintain control. Commandment number 3 of my 10 commandments of successful investing is thou shalt maintain control. All right. Tyler LaBelle says, if you are already headed down the right path with 10 investment properties, do you think it's okay to spend a little cash on yourself, getting a mountain house for the family, if we don't use it, make it an Airbnb? Sure, Tyler. That question comes differently for everybody's point, right? And I remember when I was a kid growing up poor in Los Angeles, I was in Marina Del Rey with my mom one day, and I remember distinctly what she said to me. I remember our neighbor got a boat. And our neighbor, Percy, and her 2 hot daughters that I had puppy love crushes on, Leslie and Teresa. See how I remember this stuff? They were older, but, I just had like a puppy love crush on them. They were good looking. And we went out on their boat. Okay. And I remember asking my mom, when can someone afford a boat, right? And obviously luxury item, right? And I had a 48-foot yacht when I lived in Newport Beach, and it was a hole in the water you throw money into, right? These toys are costly. I purchased 2 airplanes. I had a big motorhome. I lost money on everything, okay? These are all a waste of money, right? But, the point of creating wealth is to enjoy your wealth, right? So enjoy it as prudently as you can, right? And a mountain house may or may not be a good investment. I don't know. Probably no, it's probably an expense. But my mom answered the question of when do you get to afford a boat by saying this. She said, Jason, when you have giant cushions of wealth, of money. And I was just a little kid when I heard her say this. I remember her saying that. So Tyler, we all have to decide for ourselves how big our cushions are. But look, you've got 10 properties. You're doing the guns. That's the properties, the investments. The butter is the mountain house, right? That's the luxury. So you're on the right path. The answer is, I don't know. I'd have to look at your financial situation very specifically to really answer that question, but hopefully that gives you a framework. Okay, Ross the Boss says, I just refinanced my mortgage to a 30-year fixed at 3.75, getting rid of all high interest rate loans I had. Is this a good play? Of course it is a good play. Congratulations. When you listen to my podcast and watch other videos on the YouTube channel, or some of the other platforms like BitChute or Rumble or Odyssey or whatever. We're on all these platforms, okay? So we can speak freely. God, I can't believe we're actually having to talk about the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, the greatest document ever written to free humankind from tyranny, right? We're actually revisiting that now in 2021. It's absolutely insane. But there I go on another tangent. Anyway, check out my refi till you die strategy and learn more about this. How to refi, when to refi, what to refinance. But generally speaking, from, the basics of your question sounds good. Reed says, LOL. Okay, by the way, I could display these on the screen. Reed says, LOL. Okay, Linda says, my daughter just refinanced at 2.5%. Got a little cash to put towards her student loan. Hey, having the mortgage is a lot better deal than the student loan. It's a much lower rate, so that's great. Student loans are a complete scam. College is a scam. It's a total ripoff, especially if you got a worthless liberal arts degree. But if you're studying STEM, engineering, medicine, whatever, science, that's a real college degree. Okay, so Worth Watching says, that's why we listen to you. Hey, thanks for listening. Okay, Linda again says, we've used your software to analyze a purchase and purchase a couple of rental properties. Great. Go to realestatetools.com or propertytracker.com. Check out our great software. It's really fantastic. Linda, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Okay, Mario says, I'm 21 and saving up for my first investment property. Do you think it's a good idea to have my money saved in silver and then sell it for enough down payment due to inflation? Mario, I just did a show yesterday with David Morgan of the Morgan Report, and he's a silver bug. That will appear on the podcast in the near future. I'm not a huge fan of precious metals. I think they're okay. I do own some, just as I own some of this Bitcoin stuff, but, I think it's just okay. You get these real coins. They're pretty cool. The real coins. Actually, they're the fake coins. They're not real because the real ones are digital. They don't exist in reality. I dabble a little bit in this stuff, but, look, silver doesn't produce income. Gold doesn't produce income. And these things are highly manipulated. If you want to know about the manipulation of the precious metals market, check out a group called GATA, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. I think it's gata.org maybe is their website, or gata.com, GATA. And check out what they say about the manipulation of these things. It's a complicated question, but dollars are definitely depreciating. So I know where you're coming from. The answer is, I'm not sure. I'd say diversify to be safe. Okay. Johnny, I think that's how you say that, right? You're brilliant too, Jason. Okay. Hey, thank you for the compliment. And Ashley says, hardly any supply, I can attest. Yeah, Ashley, you're absolutely right. There is very little supply of real estate in the market. That's for sure. And Rich says, hi, Jason, love your content. Thanks, Rich. We'll keep bringing it to you. Emily says, how do we get the software to analyze? Just go to propertytracker.com. That's propertytracker.com and check out the software. And fish fat. We all can, Ashley, shame. Yeah, I think you're saying you can all agree that there's no supply, no inventory. How do you say that? It says, yoga brings evil spirits into your vessel. Yoga is the ritual to bring the spirits. Oh, that's bad. I don't know. It's good exercise. Okay. And Worth Watching says, by the way, I can't read that. New comments in the way. What type of real estate is the best to invest in? Oh, single family homes for sure. Go to jasonhartman.com, click on the properties page, and check out some of our properties there. Have one of our investment counselors work with you. And, there you go. Okay. And no housing shortage. There are cities that are ghost towns all over. Well, in China there are, but tell us where those cities are, because we're not seeing them. Okay. Linda says, I think you meant you're skating on thin ice with this. Yes, I agree. I am skating on thin ice with my comments. Yes, but I'm going to keep making them. All right. So appreciate the info. You're welcome. Trump 2024, Mario says. Great. We'll see if that happens. And Trump is better. Linda, oh gosh, I got to wrap it up here, folks. I'm late for my other meeting. Caught part of your discussion with Gammon et al. At Jupiter Bar. It was great. Yeah, we did a live stream, we did 2 drunken live streams over the weekend. So go back and look at those. They're on YouTube and Facebook. So you can check those out. Okay. Is it okay to more? Yes, definitely a good long-term fixed rate mortgage is the way to beat inflation with my trademark strategy of inflation-induced debt destruction. Learn more about that on the YouTube channel and the podcast and pandemicinvesting.com. The free book has some information about that as well. Folks, I got to go. I got to wrap it up. Thank you for joining me. I know this was a short one today. We'll do longer ones later. Check out today's podcast episode of the Creating Wealth Show for sure. You don't want to miss that one. And thank you all for joining me. Happy investing, and we'll see you next time.